Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down into bite-sized pieces. Today, we've got just two stories, and we've got a little story and we've got the big story. So the little story today is the Bitcoin miners to thrive post-halving after local Chinese government's surprising move. And the big story of the day is that Congress has now introduced 32 crypto and blockchain bills. And I want you to think about, if you've been around for a while, like I have, like 2017 or so, can you imagine a time when the U.S. Congress, the president, senators are all talking about blockchain technology and bringing it to the forefront? Would you have even imagined that? Well, here we are. So let's dive right in. So first up, Bitcoin miners to thrive post-halving after the Chinese government's surprising move. I don't think this is really surprising. But Yan, I hope I said that right, is a Chinese city that contributes 50% of the total hash power to the Bitcoin network. 50%. That's a boatload. Offers cheap electricity to miners right ahead of halving. Yan, a city in China's Sichuan province, wants Bitcoin miners' assistance in burning its surplus energy. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. That sentence I just read, Bitcoin miners' assistance in burning its surplus energy, because that's what it says right there. However, the official report or the official or an announcement states, mining supported by Chinese local government. Yan, a city in Sichuan known for abundant water resources, recently issued a government advice on construction of hydropower consumption demonstration zone to support blockchain industry development. And then they give the source as the one of the .gov websites in China. So here's the thing. They're talking about blockchain, but then the article itself talks about Bitcoin. China is not going to say, we are here to support Bitcoin. That is not their thing. Xi Jinping came out, the president of China, and said, hey, we support blockchain. Everybody went crazy. And then he came out and he said, let me clarify. I said blockchain. I'm not saying anything else, meaning I'm not talking Bitcoin. Blockchain. And that's where they're actually headed to, or that's what they're always talking about. So what's interesting to me is that it says they want to support blockchain development. Okay, you want to support blockchain development by providing this hydroelectricity at cheap rates, right? But do you need electricity if you have a closed, pre-mined central bank digital coin, yuan, that they're trying to push out? And I don't know how many different blockchain projects that they are using in the actual cities in China. But to me, you don't need a ton of electrical power if you're not mining things. And if it's just a centralized project, which what I hear are a lot of things that are going on in China. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe they are just talking a bit about Bitcoin without saying Bitcoin. And I think that's really what it is, in all honesty. I think they just can't come out and say, hey, we know there's a ton of miners in China, and we know that we're, centralized location for all these different mining pools. And again, there's a big difference between the miners and the mining pools. I understand that there are miners all over the world, but the mining pools are centralized in China. That is true. But that's a lot of mining pools in one centralized area. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, they're sitting there going, look, we know there's a ton of miners here. So we're going to drop the price dramatically so we can keep all those mining pools here in China and do our thing. So that is what's going on and how I see it. So moving down, it talks about Yan's notes follows a turbulent month in the global Bitcoin mining sector. The cryptocurrency's surprising overnight crash in March 2020, which brought prices down 50%, squeezed the dollar-enabled profits earned by miners. So the question I had to myself was, why are they doing this? Why are they saying, hey, we want to drop the price of all our hydroelectric power and keep miners in there? Well, it's because they have I wouldn't say a stranglehold, but I would say a stranglehold on the actual mining pool power throughout the whole entire globe. So if you have that, China doesn't want to really let that go, especially with that new gigawatt factory being under construction. Well, I think it's slowed down, which is now in West Texas.
So they don't want to lose what they have right now. So what they're going to do is they're going to drop the prices. They're going to say, oh yeah, but it's for blockchain development, not Bitcoin. But we know what it is. So the problem then becomes is how many Bitcoin miners are going to be left after this halving? Because I got to tell you, when that 50% drop, we saw the hash rate power also drop dramatically because these miners couldn't keep their rigs going. And because, look, if you have a price drop, you still have the same amount of overhead. You still have to pay for all that electricity. I mean, you have your rigs and everything else, but at some point you have to upgrade those rigs. So is it really profitable? And that's what it really comes down to. And this quote states, miner capitulation doesn't happen often, on average just once a year, said Charles Edwards, the creator of Hash Ribbons model, in his blog. But it has occurred following each of the last two halvings, suggesting we may see yet another wonderful buying opportunity again in mid-2020. So here's my question to everybody. Do you think that miners will sell off after this halving like last time, or do you think they're all going to sit in their apartments, in their houses, or their factories and just hodl on and just sell when the price increases? Do you think they have that ability, or do you also think that they're going to keep their rings open and actually mining as the halving rewards go from 12.5 to 6.25, yet the electricity pretty much stays the same, except in this city in China, which I have to say, thinking about it in retrospect, it's a pretty beautiful move, because if you have all miners throughout the world and the power consumption or the power cost is pretty much the same around the globe, except for this one city in China, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Because you can't keep your rigs up and moving and burning and turning, or turning and burning, because you can't afford it. So what do you have to do? You are forced to be in a mining pool in China, and that becomes centralization. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section below. I did another video, this was like a couple months ago, where I had talked about miner capitulation. And there was something that I just was not aware of, and that is the fact that some of these mining farms, they are financed by deep pocket individuals who bankroll the whole operation. They say, look, I don't know anything about mining, you do, so I'm going to pay you money to do it, and then you pay me back in increments and installments. Sure. So these mining farms open up, and they're very profitable, but then what happens when the price crashes and those people come back and go, hey, need my monthly rent or my installment payment. They're like, hey, sorry, I don't have it. Well, that sucks. Time to liquidate. And that's what happens. People are going to get their money in some way, shape, or form. So as time goes on, I think all these different mining farms that are out there, if they're able to stay up, maybe, but there is still a toll to pay, and there's still somebody in the background going, where's my money? We'll see. All right, moving on. So next up, this is the fascinating one. This is from Jason Brett. It states, Congress has now introduced 32 crypto and blockchain bills. Now, if you've been with the channel for a while, you know that I am big into not harsh regulation, but some kind of regulation to get into the space. With regulation getting in here, it stops these scams, it stops these manipulation. And yes, I understand that there will still be manipulation, there will still be scams, but we can reduce it. It's like posting up speed limits. Some people say, we don't need speed limits. Well, maybe not, but of course, the accidents will increase, different mangulation and deaths will also increase. So we can't stop car accidents, but we can really help them out with speed limits. It's the same thing with these types of regulations. So that's what I'm all about. Not over-regulation, just some regulation to get in here and to kind of give us clarity, especially with taxes. If you've had to deal with taxes lately, it's a real nightmare, especially with cryptocurrency. Anyhow, so Jason Brett, if you don't know who he is a former U.S. regulator with the FDIC, compliance examiner for the Making Home Affordable program with the Treasury, and active in Bitcoin and blockchain since 2016. So no slouch in this department. I trust this guy's opinions and what he writes about. So let's break into it. So below is a little chart. It kind of breaks up how the blockchain legislation is going to come about in this year, 2020. So there's 12 bills that address the use of cryptocurrency in terrorism, money laundering, human and sex trafficking. Great. That's awesome. Let's get that out of the way. 13 bills focus on the regulatory framework and treatment of cryptocurrency, and 5 bills promote blockchain technology that could be used by the U.S. government. And there's 2 new bills that cover the concept of a digital dollar, which is the one that is most exciting to me. So let's get into it. So scrolling down, the first one, and we're talking about use of cryptocurrency in terrorism, money laundering, and human sex trafficking, which this is what it falls under. This one is interesting because you look at it on one side and you're like, well, they're just trying to, overregulate. But then when you look into the details, you're like, oh, that's awesome. So there's one bill called the Defending American Security from Kremlin Aggression Act. That's a long name. Introduced by Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, actually looks to promote international efforts to protect financial institutions and cryptocurrency exchanges from cyber theft. This takes a different approach than focusing on how cryptocurrency use might be used by criminals, and instead elevates crypto exchanges to the same level of importance as financial institutions on the geopolitical stage. I read that very slow because I want everybody to get it. So Lindsey Graham didn't take these bills and say, look, I want to over-regulate and strap these things down. He said, no, what we need to do is we need to protect these institutions and raise them to the level of an institution from theft that is going on now. And if you're not there to protect them, what else are you doing? I think that these these senators and congressmen and women, they understand where the world is going in some way, shape, or form. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them. So they want to get behind on that. They want to hop on that bus. And I think this is one of those bills that does that. So I always think about this. It's all about nuances, and the devil's is in the details. And this one is interesting. Moving on, Senator Lindsey Graham also introduced the ERNIT Act that has provoked a great deal of concern regarding the future of end-to-end encryption, as well as legal immunities that have protected internet platforms in the past. Companies such as Amazon, Google have been able to flourish to the size they are today thanks to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. It seems Senator Graham and others now believe that big tech has grown so big and influential, this immunity needs to be weakened for public policy concerns. And to me, when I read this today, this would have gone totally over my head, and I wouldn't have really mentioned anything about it, except for the video we did yesterday about massive manipulation in the traditional market. So if you haven't seen that, it looks something like this. I'm gonna link it at the end screen of this video. But what it talked about was that there are five companies that control. Well, this says 18%. This is on February 11th, and it's already gone up to 20% as of April 28th today, I think it is. Yeah. 20% of the total S&P 500. Remember, the S&P 500 are the top 500 companies in the stock exchange, and these are the big kahunas. So if you've got five companies taking up 1/5 of everything, that's too big. And who are they? Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, and Facebook. So that is too much control. Not too much control. That is too much power. That is too much money in the hands of these small individuals. And thankfully, Congress and senators have acted and say, you know what? We can't have that. Now, I think this all came to a head during Facebook's sit down with Congress when they were grilled over. Well, actually, it wasn't Facebook, it was Mark Zuckerberg. And he had so much cockiness, I guess is the word, that he just came in there and was like, look, I'm going to do whatever I want. And they pretty much said, sit down, son, and grab some bench because you're not doing squat. And we don't hear too much about Libra except that they're actually backing away. And I think that's what is driving these types of bills. And I, for one, am happy to see it. Anyhow, moving on. Now we're talking about regulatory framework, and the highest number of bills in any category covers the regulatory treatment of blockchain and cryptocurrency, as well as the tax treatment of crypto. And again, although Facebook argued against the notion that it was a security, the Managed Securities Are Stablecoins Act, introduced by Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia from Texas, Congressman Lance Good, and also from Texas, aimed to ensure the basket of currencies backing the Libra coin would be treated as just that, securities. And because of that, Libra has moved away from the basket of currencies concept. And yeah, I don't know. Me personally, I've heard other YouTubers, they talk about, well, Libra's coming, definitely coming. I don't know. I really don't know if it's really going to be here at any time, shape, or form. We'll see. Anyhow, while the prior bill looked to classify the offering of Libra as securities, the Keeping Big Tech Out of Finance Act, as introduced by Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia, that's the name of my dog, is much more direct and simple, and simply not allowing a large social media platform from engaging in financial activities. Look, this is huge, and this is exactly how it should be. We all know that Facebook did us wrong. They essentially weaponized and took our data, all of our data, which is, as they say, it is one of the most expensive things you can have is data. It is almost like a currency these days because they can buy and sell it, and it's very valuable. And what they did is they took that and they sold it to everybody. All that data that you have on Facebook. And don't tell me that you don't go to Facebook, because I know a lot of you do. I will just say this. If Facebook had the opportunity to become not only selling and controlling our data, but they could also be on the other end and say, hey, we're also going to be your bank, and you can trust us with your money because we're Facebook. Get the F out of here. There is no way, shape, or form that would happen. And if you ever have a chance to go look at that grilling for Mark Zuckerberg in Congress, it's beautiful. And it's what should have happened. There's no way that should ever be allowed to happen. That's all. That's my 2 cents. Anyhow, in addition, Chewy introduced another bill called the Protecting Consumers from Market Manipulation Act. That's interesting. It has an approach to crypto regulation not seen before. The bill requires the FSOC, or the Financial Stability Oversight Council, to consider treatment of digital currencies as a designated financial market utility. So essentially, they are treating them just like the traditional market, and there has to be oversight, and hopefully we can get the kind of market manipulation out. Now, I got to tell you, some people think that there's so much manipulation in cryptocurrency market, but if you watch yesterday's video, you'll see it's not just here. Traditional markets are, I mean, they got us hand over foot. They win it hands down, in my opinion. Anyhow, in addition, it would require any non-financial company, such as Facebook, that enjoys a minimum level of profits from digital currencies to become a bank holding company supervised by the Federal Reserve. Hypothetically, Libra could then be considered systemically important to the financial system. When I read this, at first I was like, that's a great bill. But then when I read that, I'm like, oh my God, that's awful. So if you want to treat Libra as systemically important to the financial system, then you're going to say, well, now Facebook's too big to fail, and we have to bail them out, anything that ever happens to them, because that's what happens to financial institutions. So I'm going to vote no on that one. Tell me what you think. If I read that wrong, or if you think that's a different type of theory, or if you think, hey, Facebook should be too big to fail. Let me know in the comment section. That'll be interesting. Moving on. Cryptocurrency Act of 2020, introduced by Representative Paul Gozer. Then there was the Token Taxonomy Act by Representative Warren Davidson. And both of these bills looked to divide up responsibility of regulation amongst a few different agencies, while the bill from Rep. Garcia would essentially make the Federal Reserve as a sole regulator for cryptocurrencies. And I don't see how that would be a great idea. I think there was another bill that's not mentioned here. I know that this gentleman had actually talked about it, where it was different things. So like if it's a security, it would be governed by the SEC. If it was a commodity, it would be governed by the CFTC. And if it's actually a cryptocurrency, not a digital asset that is a security or a commodity, if it's a cryptocurrency, it would be regulated by the Fed or the Treasury, one of those two. And I kind of like that approach because that puts those three categories where they should be, in my opinion. Anyhow, promoting the use of blockchain technology, Blockchain Promotion Act, sponsored by Senator Todd Young and Senator Ed Markey, is already out of committee and awaits a vote on the Senate floor. So they're already passed Congress. Now it just goes to the senators and then hopefully get signed into law. The bill directs the Department of Commerce to establish a blockchain working group. This group conducts a study to examine a range of potential applications, including non-financial applications for blockchain tech. Bills in this category include how blockchain tech could be used for better hospital data security, among other things. Also, I think I would like to see that, how blockchain could be used for voting and opening up voting, not just voting rights, but voting centers or voting from home. If we could get that, hey, we could all vote and not have all these issues. We'll see. And then lastly, the U.S. Central Bank digital currency and digital dollar. And this, to me, is the most interesting. So the first bill introduced was the Banking for All Act by Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat, Ohio. And the second and latest bill concerning digital currencies was the Automatic Boost to Communities Act, introduced by Representative Rashida Tlaib, Democrat from Michigan. Both bills focus on faster delivery of economic stimulus benefits to Americans in light of COVID-19. So all of this comes down to everything I just read to you. It just comes down to traction. Most of these bills will not get through. Some will, and they will be gutted and things will get changed, and it will never look like the original bill that comes through. However, this is the first year that I've seen so many bills come through the Congress and actually make it to the Senate. And to me, that just shows vast amounts of progress. In 2017, I would never have even imagined that we'd have 1, 2, 3, or let alone 32 different bills coming before Congress. And that just, to me, it just means adoption is coming. And that's what I'd like to see. So here's my question. Do you think this bill here, any of these, well, especially these two bills for the digital dollar, has a chance of getting passed, or is it all posturing? I mean, we know that things can change, but do you think in some way in 2020, 2021, we'll actually have a digital dollar? Let me know what you think. And before we sign off, let's take a look at the actual bill and just get to the highlights. So this is the bill, 116 Congress, second session. Aha. So it comes down to this, digital dollars. What is that? The term digital dollars means dollar balances consisting of digital ledger entries recorded as liabilities in the accounts of any Federal Reserve Bank. Federal Reserve Bank. And digital coins are currency instruments issued by the United States Treasury as legal tender. So essentially the Federal Reserve Bank has the ledger. Treasury actually submits or sends it out. Great. Digital dollar account wallets. What's that? The term digital dollar account wallet means a digital dollar account maintained by a Federal Reserve Bank on behalf of any person for the purpose of holding digital dollar balances. So here's my question, everybody. If we have the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, and they're going to give us some type of account wallet, right? What do we need commercial banks for? What do I need Chase, Wells Fargo, Deutsche Bank, or whatever other banks are out there? I don't know. USAA. I mean, why do we need a bank? I mean, that's the whole purpose of the whole thing, right? I mean, for loans, I could see like we want to get mortgages, for our house mortgage, but couldn't we just then go to the Federal Reserve then at some point and just say, hey, I need a loan? Because why do I need a bank? Banks are they really now becoming obsolete? Let me know what you think. Comment section. Let's move on. Payments. This is also for stimulus package. They want to do $2,000 per month to each eligible individual. Thereafter, during the payment period, and $1,000 per month to each eligible individual a year after the payment period. So you would essentially download this wallet, and then almost immediately, probably as soon as you verify your identity, then you would get $2,000, and it would just be boom, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Every single month you would get it. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? It's not, and I'm going to explain why. Keeping going down, see if there's anything here. Sense of Congress regarding establishment of Fed accounts and Treasury-administered e-cash wallets. Digital dollar account wallets establishment is a sense of Congress that at the end of the payment period, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System shall develop and administer a system of digital dollar account wallets, which shall be branded as Fed accounts. Doesn't that sound fantastic? And then boost payments via digital dollar account wallets no later than, and this is where it comes down to, they want to implement this no later than January 1, 2021. So let me get this straight. So in about 7 months, 8 months or so, you want to have the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, you want to get this through Congress, have Senate pass it. You want them to create some kind of digital wallet, then create the actual system that they're going to use and get payments out to people in 8 months. That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. There's no way, shape, or form. If you have been around for a while, like I have, if you remember when Obamacare came online, and they had worked on that for a year straight, solid, and they had so many people on that project, and it wasn't a rush job. And the day that it went live, it crashed. And this was supposed to be something simple. And remember, not every single person needed to go through Obamacare. They had a lot of insurance through their employers. So if you think that this is going to happen and the government is going to be able to do any type of great technology work and get a digital dollar wallet out to everybody and have it work flawless and also not have it hacked, you are out of your mind. All right, so I'll finish up with this. When I talked about how scary this is, I'm going to link this to George Gammon. George Gammon, he's a business owner like me. He likes to talk. He likes to simplify things and talk about different financial aspects. He's got a lot of smart people on his channel. So listen to this first minute, and I'll link this afterwards. You might find enjoyment for this video. I sure did.
Government-backed digital currency. Why you should be terrified. I'm going to explain this to you in 3 simple, fast steps. Step number 1, let's understand exactly how this would work. And I want to be clear, these are not electronic dollars like we see today. A lot of people are confused. They say, oh, a digital currency is no big deal, because that's basically what we have right now with an ATM card and my bank. Wrong. Let's dive into the details. It starts with the Federal Reserve, and they create Fed coins. So the Fed coins, how do those get to the people? Well, of course, through MMT. All you have to do is download the app on your phone, and we will deposit the Fed coins onto your phone automatically.
So this was, he made this a couple weeks ago. And it's amazing how accurate it is. If you watch the whole thing, you're like, wow, that's exactly what this bill consisted of. And it's scary. It really is. So if you got time, check that out. All right, that's it for today's video. I want to say thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. And I'll link this one and the other video about market manipulation in the end. And that's it. Also, I want to thank everybody. We've grown pretty quickly on this channel. It's been less than 5 months, and we're almost at 33,000, I think. Under 33,000 subscribers. So I see us hitting that 100K pretty quick. And so thanks for everybody who's been subscribing and been watching. It's pretty great. Thanks, everybody. See you on the next one.